And then she can do spit that mint out of your mouth.
And you've got some things to share, so just do it.
Your time to take a wheel.
I've always loved the song, Just As I Am, but I was never comfortable with the words. And for years, I've wanted words to that song for us. And last week, I was just playing my guitar in the presence, and the words for me, and I hope they bless you, that song just started coming out of me. So I want to share that with you. Just as I am, as you created me to be, a pure, perfect image and likeness of thee, not counting it robbery to be one with thee, oh God of glory, I come to thee. I come bare and naked, no fig leaves I wear, no shame, no sin consciousness, no doubt, no fear, secure in your faithfulness. I humbly bow, oh God of glory, I come to you now. Just as I am, as you created me to be, the pure, perfect image and likeness of thee, not counting it robbery to be one with thee, oh God of glory, I come to thee. I come bare and naked, no fig leaves I wear, no shame, no sin consciousness, no doubt, no fear, secure in your faithfulness. I humbly bow, oh God of glory, I come to you now. Oh God of glory, I come to you now. Thank you.
Thank you.
I really feel to share this. I don't want to take time because I know this good stuff, but I just feel I'm supposed to release this for somebody. And I'm working on an album, and this is one of the songs that came out of my spirit for that. You know, we're here because we're all hungering to know who we are and where we're supposed to be. And as I began to pour out to me, praying for this, the Father began to sing it back to me, and to tell me who I am. And it's not just for me, it's for all of us. Father, take me in to the heart of you. My soul is yearning for more of you. I cannot stay here when Just As I Am again for Lynn. He wasn't here.
Sure. Good. That's beautiful.
Take you to Lynn's picture.
I wish you had this
Just as I am, as you created me to be, a pure, perfect image and likeness of thee, not counting it robbery to be one with thee, O God of glory, I come to thee. I come bare and naked, no fig leaves I wear, no shame, no sin consciousness, no doubt, no fear, secure in your faithfulness. I humbly bow, O God of glory, I come to you now. Secure in your faithfulness, I humbly bow, O God of glory, we come to you now.
Thank you, Lord. Hallelujah.
It is not robbery if we ever get it through our heads, through our minds, through our hearts. It's not robbery to say you're equal, you're one, that you are God in the flesh. That's what you're here to manifest. God in the flesh. And it doesn't bring God down to say, I am equal with God. It brings me up to His vibration.
Yes.
That's when we can begin to experience and manifest and function out from our Godness,
Yes.
our Godhood. That is our right. Dominion is our birthright. To be over. 5 times He said, I'll put you over, 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 over. Ever since He said it in Genesis, we've been under all those things.
Yes.
But we're ascending in consciousness to know it's not robbery.
Right.
To be, accept, and embrace who we really are. God
Yes.
in flesh, the Word made flesh.
Amen.
Thank you.
Mike had put some things together, and they had to take their baby. Baby got fever, and so they had to leave with the baby. But Mark is going to come and share what Mike put together.
It's okay there, one.
I am just a messenger. Just for a second. Mike, a few months ago, just show you all that, that's the reason why it's about this, is Mike had a real horrendous experience about 2 years ago, and he told me, he said, I thought my life was over. A year and a half later, he said it was one of the greatest things that he had ever experienced. And you've all shared experiences where you thought your life was over, and a couple years later you're thinking, oh, this was so great. As you say, it's things for us, not to us. And he told me from that revelation that he needed to study time. And he's done 2 conferences with us on time. And I kept telling him, I said, man, you're going to be in Degray, right? You're going to be in Degray? And he said, no, I'm not. He said, it's my grandbaby's first Easter, and all the family want to see her. And so he told me he's not. Well, he had two different dreams. One of the dreams was a prism. And he even told me that when he was younger, he played with prisms. And he had one with him. Well, the baby had a high fever, so they left last night. And so when Barbara wrote this on here, I went crazy. I said, oh my gosh, this was the dream Mike had. Well, he was up in his room, and they were really fighting the baby. So well, this morning I just said, hey, I'm going to show you something. I took him in here, and I said, before you leave, and I showed him this, and he went crazy. And he handed me these notes. And this note is, time's illusion and the power of myth. It seems that time has distorted our reality as it caused us to realign our focus on the temporal rather than timeless. We claim no separation from God, but divide and mark our lives in time. He said, even though the crucifixion is a historical occurrence, it is what we get out of it in that incarnation is in one time and one present moment. And then he said the thing that I've been working on is that judgment only exists in time.
Yes, that's correct.
And he wrote this at a UR website a few months ago, and I said, dude, you need to share on this. And he talked about the two trees. He had a dream of the two trees. And he said the tree of the knowledge of good and evil presents time as linear and attributes only in time. Therefore, when you get in time, you're seeing light, dark, good, evil, judgment, punishment, exemplifying duality. But when you see the tree of life, it's timelessness. In fact, it's all of the like the atom and the nucleus and the light and life as we are, in which there is no opposites. And then he showed me this, a prism. The exact picture, and this is what I want to read. Time's illusion and the power of myth. Here is the action of the trees in a myth. For a myth is not a static story, but a dynamic recounting of the interaction between spirit and the physical, with the purpose of dismissing separation and demonstrating non-duality, union. The prism disperses the light entering it. Prism is a vehicle which explains the deeper meaning of myth. And his dream said a prism is a myth because we have one light that shoots at it and then it spreads in all different directions.
Wow.
First is the distortion of light and illusion. Is it a distortion? It is neither. It's something elusive or distorted that has been masked from view, but serving to mar the correct view. The prism clears the view. And then he said, what is the purpose of a myth? Well, the purpose of the myth is that people are in the knowledge of the tree and evil, the good and evil, all they hear is a myth. But to those that are in the tree of life, what do they hear? Because evil and judgment and illusions are all a product of being in time. So therefore, when you get into the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you move into time, and therefore time created good and evil, producing judgment. And when you remove the time element and you get into the heavens, and what it declares, you remove all the duality at the same time. So that's his note. I'm just, butchering it up here. But the one thing that just really hit me was judgment is an emanation of law, which is an emanation of time. And he said God has never judged. He only decrees.
Amen.
And we have the power and the dominion, birthright, to decree. But we are not here in order to judge. And it all starts with this. But he said this right here, when he was studying myth, I call him the myth man now because he said this right here, this doesn't make it not true. This makes it more true because it's taking and communicating a truth. And so therefore when somebody says, oh, it's just a myth, that doesn't mean it's less true. It means it's more truth. And therefore it is what we would refer to as eternal.
Amen.
Now that's it. Y'all can only have one copy of this, but I'm going to see if he'll put it on his website. He actually had a prism with him. And when he was reading this to me, I thought, man, this was so powerful because how many times have we got hung up in judgment? And what puts us a lot of times back in that tree? Our view of time. If you look back at your life and think of all the things that you thought would devastate you, 2 years later it was the greatest thing that ever happened to you.
That's true.
And what we've been saying, was it God, is it devil, is it? But no, it was time.
Amen.
And I will quote Interstellar, the movie, when the physics says, to a physics, our greatest enemy is not death, it's time.
It's time.
And you think about what you shared about the gums. How many times have we judged something in time only to in that dimension of time? But if we move out of that dimension of time, we not only cease from that decreeing, we step into that decreeing of authority that we were God-given to have. That's the reason we can't ever walk in authority, is because we still take that authority and put it in a realm of time and walk in judgment when we should be decreeing with non-judgment, which is when the mercy of God will be released in a level it's never been.
Hallelujah.
Well, that's the best I can do, Mike.
Very good.
Consult author for further commentary.
Mike will probably hire you to be his vote orator.
Yeah.
PR
Good job.
We tried to get him to stay the sheriff, and he said, no, I'm really cool with this. So y'all email him, harass him, tell him you want the full script, because I messed it up. No.
Awesome.
An awesome job.
Very good.
Who gave you this?
Sister Barbara, we'll read something tonight, and will you come in? And this is from Dr. Mayor. He put us on this. So if it don't sound like you, it's not this, it's really trying to present it. Here's what it said. When the two parts of a unit, this, when they was talking about the union coming together yesterday. When the two parts of a unit of consciousness, when the two parts of a unit of consciousness have become one, and the other parts have become one with the one,
Wow.
thus becoming all.
Amen. Amen.
It is possible to go forward into the higher cosmic cycle.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Stay on that.
Amen.
Yes, yes.
Come on.
Would it be okay if I could
Sorry.
take like 3 minutes or 4 minutes and just write a couple of things on the board?
Yes.
Just, is that okay? I've not done this before, so, but we'll see. The time thing is something that I spend a lot of, that's a bad joke. It was also unintentional. What I'd like to try to do, and I'm kind of shifting into an instruction mode in some sense, is I'd like to put a little framework around the notion of time, because we put a lot of things around that. And the only reason I bring it up is because in the worlds that my head seems to run in, what it does is it puts time in a larger frame of reference. And it helps me for a lot of context. So I just like to do that. I'm not going to erase anything else here. I realize that. What I'd like to do is start...
John, feel free, erase it. I was going to erase it anyway.
Okay, I understand, thank you. I'd like to start with just the number 0. This is just going to be just a few minutes of very simple, very straightforward, I think it's straightforward. Just a couple of numbers so that we get a frame of reference. I think it was the Arabs, if I remember correctly, but I don't know more detail than that, that actually in our number system inserted the number 0. It's either that or they inserted the number 1. So I'm starting to write some numbers, and I'm a little nervous, so it's squiggly, plus I'm an old guy, so it's squiggly anyway. So the next number is 1. Now we talk about unity and all sorts of other things, and 1 has everything in it, and that's true. What I'd like to ask you is, what's the next number?
2.
Okay. That's a good number. And so I'll just ask the next question. What's the next number after that?
33.
Okay. Good. All right. So now we're done with the easy part. What's the next number after that? And the hint is, okay, what's the next number?
5.
4.
Okay? Those are all good numbers, but I would suggest that the next number after that is actually 5. And so if it's 5, what's the next number after that?
8. 8.
Okay, no?
7.
10.
7.
We're just guessing.
Now, I'm not going to go further than that, because the point of this is then becomes quickly irrelevant. These are what, from here on, this is called the notion of null, the notion of zero. The philosophic question that if you've ever taken a world religions class or something like that at maybe a college level, the philosophic question is always, is nothing something? Okay? It's a very fundamental question that in the world of computer science and in the world of database management systems, that's my technical background in the theory of those, the answer to that has to be, nothing has to be defined as something. Otherwise, lots of things fall apart in the world of databases. Now, I won't go any further than that, but zero has to be, it brings up the philosophic question, is nothing something? And for many cases, that has to be true. Okay? 1 is identity. It's just 1. Okay? A lot of things happen, but once you get beyond here, these are called prime numbers. Okay? And some of you may have recognized that they're prime numbers. Everything that there is, I'll just make a simple statement, everything that there is has its derivation out of prime numbers. Okay? Now, I won't go into detail. I've worked in earlier years in computer cryptography and all sorts of other things. If you ever want a number or a thing that's hard to break, you use prime numbers to drive what you're going to do. If you're going to talk about dimensions, and now I'm bridging away from this, if you're going to talk about dimensions, you talk about sets of things that can be derived from these numbers. Everything that has dimension comes from at least these two plus pick one. You can pick any one. If you pick 2, then you have the set of all numbers that are 0, 1, and all the even numbers. Why? Because there's a very basic rule in mathematics that to create any, I'm only speaking of integer numbers, because anyway, that's detail. Anything that you create comes from one of the prime numbers times some other prime number, including itself. It's a multiplication. It's the only rule in all of the number systems that have ever existed. I don't care if you use base 60 like the Chaldeans did, or you use anything else. All number systems came from this kind of thing. Okay? So it's a core concept. That's what I'm trying to get at, is that it's a core concept. You start with the prime numbers, you have this, the prime numbers, and the only rule that I can get out of my toolbox is multiplication of those prime numbers. Okay? And so therefore, 4 is 2 times 2. 6 is 2 times, well, I can't do 6 without having another prime number, right?
Right.
The prime number I have to have, given the rule that I have, is multiplication, so I have to introduce that. Okay? And so my system of my set of dimensions comes from, I have to have that number and that one and that one and that one. And once I have this, I've got all the prime numbers, all the even numbers in the world. Okay? And multiplication. They all instantly appear. And so if all I have is just these 3, I've got all the even numbers in the world that are possible. Okay? If I add that one, I've got all the even numbers by 2, and all the numbers that you can generate from the number 3, like 6, like, as you correctly said, 9, 12. Any other multiplication, I can use 2 times 2 times 3. Okay, now I won't go into any more detail about why am I doing this. Sometimes I wonder why the heck am I doing this. Because this is how dimensions are built. when you add a number to the prime number set, when you say my prime number set, curly brackets, consists of these three, supposed to be curly brackets, of this set of numbers, I've defined a dimensional system for which there is life, there is sequence, there is time, there is a whole variety of other things. That's an important statement. There's a whole variety of other things that instantly come to the table because you not only enumerated which prime numbers you're going to use, but you also said this is all the prime numbers I'm going to use. So therefore, I said this set is only consisting of the numbers that are inside here. The next one beyond that's 11, right? Okay. So if there's something outside of this set, like the next one, that would include the number 11, and maybe 13 or 17, or just, pick your numbers, doesn't matter. They have to have 0, they have to have 1, they have to have at least some other prime number. Once you get that, you're off and running. Okay? Now, why do I even say this? If you're dealing with one of our favorite little lazy 8s, which is like this one with this is called infinity. Now, why did I even bother with this? Because of this. Infinity is defined as a set of all, or it's a set of all things including itself. Okay, including itself is important, but I won't go into that. That's a detail for now. As soon as you do something like infinity minus, it's just a notation. As soon as you say that, I have said that my world of infinity, which is, these are square brackets, here's my infinity. As soon as I do that, I said, well, it's everything including infinity on this side, but it does not include something that is the next increment less than infinity. That's what that little minus means in mathematics. Now, why do I say that? What that means is there is some prime number that you had to have in the system to get to here, the set of infinite prime numbers. If you take one away, if that's the case, if you take one away, then you subtracted one, and just like this, you're in the smaller set. So when I hear dimensions, I'm hearing there's some set of numbers, and we're able to live a free and full life in that set of numbers. Okay? We do not even know about anything beyond this. Because in all of our sensor systems that we have, we often talk about eyes and ears and touch and taste and feel. Those are our sensors. That's how we interact with the set of things that are inside here and derive information from them and correlate that information to other things. Okay? So why am I even doing this? Because it's a way of thinking about how to think about things. Am I somebody asked me somewhere, am I a philosopher or something? No, actually I'm just I have some background in some stuff and I won't go there, it's just a detail. So, what time is a sequencer. As soon as you have, so I started with this 0, 1, and some set of prime numbers. I then said, well, now I limited my prime numbers to get to this circle. And then I said, well, if there's actually one larger, then the circle's larger. It includes a set of all things that you can generate from, like 22 is the first number that you can generate from including 11, other than 11 and 1, which is 11. Okay? So if you think about that, that's how I turn to my Father and say, that's how you made us. You made us inherently to be able to see creation the way that you see creation. And since I am not this, I'm not that, I'm less than that, I am actually very, very small. What you also allowed me to do is get a feel for, bad word, good word, but a feel for how you create things and how you, in your expression of love, in that expression, allowed us to see how you created what we are in. That to me is love. This is just a way of describing it. It's what some people call a taxonomy. So, if you go from infinite to one less, you went from like this to this, and if you're in here, you can fully feel all the set of all the dimensional stuff that's in there, but you have no way of knowing that this is true unless there is some interaction. And if there is some interaction, and that's what you talk about, Barbara, all the time. If there is some interaction between the set of things that I know and feel all the time, and wait a minute, how do I just, oh, well, that's like these, okay? It's just a different color. It's similar, that means it's in here. But if I pick this up and I correlate it with everything that I know, and it's not like any, what the heck is this? It might be a number generated that I just haven't played with yet, or it might be one of these. And if it's one of these, and again, I say, Barbara, that's what I will say, I'll own the statement, I feel like you talk about all the time. If it's one of these, then that means my sensor systems, all that, Father, you have created, and the ability to interact with other than what I represent. That's what our sensors are. Means that we can recognize what this is. We may not be able to correlate it, but we can identify it's not anything that I know about. I can explore my world till the cows come home, and I don't know. Okay? Now, why do I bring all of that up? Well, partly because of the time. I really connected with what was said in many different ways. This is what was going through my head as I heard your words, or heard the intent or the spirit or the what was there. And to finish this up, time is a sequencer. When you go from infinite to infinite less, that means that you have a limit. When you have a limit, that means that there is something outside of that. What you learn by that is that there's a set of things in here, and instantly when you go from infinity to anything less than anything, now you've introduced a whole world of things that were not there before, or that were completely there before. That's the conundrum of, and Lynn, that's what you talk about all the time. That's why I like the word conundrum, because that's what you are speaking about all the time. Nothing but, sorry, not minimizing, nothing but conundrums. Okay? Things that are both true and not true at the same time. Why? Because that's what this world is. The set of all things that are both true and not true at the same time. Get used to it, because, Father, that's how you created us. Okay? As we expand out into our finiteness, we are exploring this, or maybe we're exploring this. When we look at other sets of dimensions, if there is any ability to interact with the things that I am familiar with and get out of my pocket and I play with, and this thing appears, then there's potential for communication. If there's potential for communication, it is highly likely that the set of dimensions that this represents and the set of dimensions that this represents means that they interact. They are like this. And this is the space wherein the set of dimensions 0, 1, 2, and 3 that I play with, that's this, and 0, 1, 3, 7, and 11 that they play with, means that the place where we are common and can fully interact, Father, in a way that you meant by love, we can interact then we can play together in 0 and 1 and 3, because instead of all things that are derived from that, because that is our commonality. And that's how Father made us and made the set of all things. I don't care if you call them plants, animals, human beings that we perhaps know better how to communicate as we're closer. We got more of these in that. Go talk to a plant. Okay, I won't go there. When you see this, then there's a set of places that all three of these sets of dimensions can play together. That's their sandbox. Okay? I only know how to, I can talk in simple terms about sandboxes. But this is the space where all three of these play. What does that mean? 0, 1, and maybe 7 is in this one, and that one, and that one. That's a sandbox that we can play together in and recognize what I would say is the love of the Father in creating both this one and this one. They recognize how to play together here, and then they discover, maybe at different times, but they discover, oh, I know what this is, and I can interact with this, and I can get a feel for, Father, how you did whatever the heck you do that Lynn can describe much better than I can, or you can describe it much better. But that's what you do, Father. That's what this is all about. I don't care whether you say Father, Mother, it, that's what it is. Okay? This is multiple dimensions. And Barbara, when you're, I keep using your name, it's not instructive, it's just an association of the set of things that are more in your sandbox than other people's sandboxes. When you speak of those things, you are speaking of things that we are moving into and increasingly recognize, not just this, but it's this other paper, if that's what you want to call the commonality of the set of things that are there. Okay? I know I'm way over my time. I'm sorry about that. What I was trying to say is that time is just a sequencer in the finiteness of this world that we are in, because it is this, and therefore it's finite. It's not this, it's this, and therefore it's finite. If it's finite, that instantly brings a whole host. There's an infinite distance between 0 and 1. There's a much smaller distance between 1 and 2, and even smaller between 2 and 3. I'm speaking mathematically, so I won't worry about explaining that more. But when you go from one set of dimensions, and if you play in that set of dimensions, time, all the time does, is like a rubber band. Think of it like a rubber band that goes from 0 length to whatever the maximum length is of this limit is that's inherent within this system that we live in. Just keep pulling it. However, until it can't be pulled anymore. I don't care if it breaks, but if you want to put that constraint, okay, fine, get a better rubber band. Okay, it goes from 0 all the way up to, okay. That's what time is. It's stretchy. We like to talk about the speed of light, but there are other features about the stretchiness of this that either Einstein in his brilliance or others in their brilliance spoke about. I can't think like that. I don't know how to do that. And I probably couldn't anyway. So I'll keep with my rubber band. Okay, maybe it's actually a circle, not a rubber band. And maybe it's not uniform in the ticking, in the going from one tick to the next tick, to the next tick, to the next tick. Maybe the metronome in our time only goes like what we call 1 second at a time. Maybe in other parts of our stretchiness it actually goes a little faster. It actually does. It actually approaches 0, which is what some people have said. And so all I'm trying to get at in time, which is what triggered this stuff, is time is a measuring device. It allows you to sequence A before B or B before A. I can either get behind or I can get in front of. I know that there's A and B and I can put them this way or this way. And that's the fundamental thing that time allows you to do, is sequence things. Okay? Once you sequence them, you can order them. Once you order them, then you can compare. When you go from this set to here, that's the huge amount of difference between this and this. Now you can compare A to B. And once you do that, then you're bringing assessment, you're bringing valuation, you are bringing the notion of judgment. You are bringing the notion of a whole sequence of processes that we tend to bind all together as one process, but they're not. They're all little processes. And that's what you were saying yesterday. If I have A and B, and I can recognize A as before or after B, I don't have to say that one is, unless I want to say one is better or worse, left or right, above or below. However you want to describe that, I don't really give a flip. But when you sequence them that way, you are applying a judgment. You don't, it's an assessment. You don't have to apply anything negative about that or positive about that unless you decide to take an additional step and say, I am also going to apply a, how do I think this valuation, this assessment is? Is it better or worse than that other assessment? That's what judgment is. Okay? And I'll stop at the judgment because if you think about the sequence of things, look at the finer granularity of what goes on and separate out, those are steps. I can make an assessment and do I really have to? I don't have to judge in this case. So I'm going to separate that step out and the best I can in my limited world, I'm going to leave that as an I'm just going to leave that over here. I'll leave it like the other cow pies on the road behind me. So that's all I wanted to say. If you think about numbers and, 2, 4, 8, this times that, just remember, if you would, to me it's a very core concept. It's just a taxonomy, it's just a language. To me it's a language of love and relationship like many other languages. And to me that's what number systems start with. So that's all I wanted to say, and think about time as just the sequencer and the judgment as the result of that. And all of that came into existence because we went from the set of all things that includes itself, that's what this is, including the set of all numbers, that's what we call God, we call Father, we call it, we call, I don't give a flip what you call. But because we're infinite, we have to attach a tag to it, and the tag itself is fundamentally inadequate. But we tag it because we are in this finite space, and we have to tag it so that we can associate all of this myriad of thoughts and concepts and thoughts and all sorts of other things. We can attach that to that tag, and it represents all the stuff that, all the associated things thought of. That's how you made us. I'll stop. Okay?
So really what you have patterns in, if you have a sequence, you have patterns in time, but if you take the numbers and put them into a circle where they're not in numerical order, you have more patterns of love, emotion. That's just what jumped in my head as you spoke there.
Yes, yes. Actually, the two ways that circles are defined in math. I'm sorry, I said a circle, I should say it more carefully. A period is defined as a circle of radius 0. It's just one of the basic definitions of period. A period is defined as a circle whose radius, or the width, the diameter, I don't care, it's the same thing. The diameter is 0. Okay? And the only reason you describe it that way is it helps you understand the notion of infinity once you get to the degree that you can get your head around that. Okay? The other thing that people say is a circle is defined, put this one in your head and smoke it for a little bit. A circle is defined as an infinite number of straight lines. Okay. Now, go there from here. Okay, just play with it just for a little bit. Okay, I have a line. Okay, I have a point. Now I have a line, two points, a line between. And now I have 2 lines. I can't create a triangle yet, so I had 3 as the minimum number of straight lines I need for this. Now go to 4. My fingers won't work very quickly. Now go to 5. Okay. Now go to 6. And if you describe, that's what Pythagorean, the several of the Euclid things I'm handling about, where if you go from 3 lines, you have a triangle. Then you go to 4 lines, you have a square. You go to 5, you have a pentagram. You go to 6, and you have a whatever it's called. And you keep going to an infinite number of lines, and when you get there, you have a circle. Okay? What that tells you is that they are related fundamentally to each other, and that's okay to think of it that way. Okay? I won't go further in that.
Can I ask you one thing? Could you fold that circle over, double itself, and collapse time? I've heard that's the way that spaceships come from other places. They don't take all this time zooming through space. They know how to collapse time.
Right
It's like
angles.
you will be at the top of that circle instantly at the bottom of it if you double it over.
There's a there's an article in, so I'm not, I can't throw out a URL reference, but the statement, the text of the titling says, "Proving Einstein Wrong with Spooky Quantum Experiment." That's what I was referring to a couple days ago. It's in livescience.com. It's LIVE science.com. It's one of the articles. You can look it up. It's called "Proving Einstein Wrong with Spooky Quantum Experiment." It addresses your issue in several different ways. It addresses the issue in several different ways. If you go from I know how to draw a little bit. It's supposed to be a circle. And now I'm going to go like this and like this. It's supposed to be a straight line through the center. I'm now going to draw another circle like this, whose width is the same. I'm now going to draw another circle like this, whose width is the same. I'm now going to take this line, and then this line, and then this line, and I won't do any more. And then I'm going to connect this to this to this, and I have an equilateral triangle. This is all Euclid for that Pythagorean theorem. Pythagoras, one of the early Greek philosophers. And if you do this, you have a right-sided triangle. There's the 90-degree angle. And that 90-degree angle is how the brilliant people in mechanical engineering or civil engineering knew how to draw a right angle, because of the peculiar Pythagorean theorem that says that there's a mathematical equality of the square of this is equal to the sum of the square of this plus the square of that. Okay? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. It's what you learned one of the early things in an algebra class or something like that. Okay, now how did they get there? They got there by the circles and these features and et cetera. And that is when you turn to say, Father, that's how you made the symmetry of who we are. And if I then want to say, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take this part of this circle, and I'm going to take that part of that circle, what do you have? And that's partly what you were asking. Okay? I can be a little stretchy and I can squeeze this together. I can be a little noisier and I can pull these apart. Okay? I can increase my frequency. If I increase my frequency, I'm decreasing the distance between these two. But all I wanted to do, all I was trying to do with this, is just show you the extremely high relationship of one set of things that is in our world that we breathe with all the time. We are able to breathe because of this. We are able to hear the lovely music, both what you hear and what you feel. Okay? We're able to interact because we are inherently multidimensional to begin with. How many dimensions? I don't know how many, but I know there's at least two, and highly likely more than two. And why is that? It's so simple. Why is it? Because we routinely talk about two sets of dimensions all the time. What are the tags? Remember tags? What are the tags that we call those things? Our spiritual life, our physical life. Those are two sets of dimensions. They interact. What's the likelihood that there is at least one more? Highly likely. Not provable, but highly likely. What I do know is that I'm very interested in what Barbara says, for example, because if there is any interaction at all, leading to a recognition that there is something I do not know about, anything at all, that means there is at least one point in here, one prime number, one point that's in my set, and that's if you are from another dimension, not applying anything. You might say that, but I wouldn't say that. You're okay with that, right?
Well, she is from another.
She is okay. We're okay with that a whole lot more than never mind. That's just a funny part of it. But that means that there is at least one point of overlap. And if there's one point of overlap, what that means is that Father has created us with the ability to interact out of his or its frame of reference, to enjoy love. Right here with this set of, with all the entities that are created out of that set of dimensions. Just like, look at the variety of the set of dimensions that we are in what we call our spiritual and what we call our physical world.
Right.
Look at how rich that, it is. It is a kick and a half place to be in. You can describe things, if you want to, in those colors. You can use, and if you want to, you can, but if you want, you can use a set of colors that are in this world that don't even map onto that set of frequencies, they map onto another set of frequencies such that you feel like you knew somebody forever, you probably did.
Right. Yeah.
Or the Father knew you and you knew the Father, and you, okay?
Yeah.
That's the world that we're in, and if there's any interaction based on all this, then there is a full and free opportunity for all of the interactions, but with that set of definitions, that set of dimensions as well. And then you look at the Father and you say, that's how you created us. What what an expression of who the Father is. And by projection, because we are always in the infinite set, you created us, which is what we talked, you created us to be that way as well.
Yes.
To create, to express love, to blah, 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 fill in the blanks. They work well for you and differently for you. Okay? So, I can only apologize a little bit for all of this, and I can get going, and then I can start blathering, and Suzanne can tell me to shut up, and I don't mean to continue, I'm not continuing. This is the world that I am in way over my eyeballs.
Wow.
And so when Lynn speaks, or you speak, or we sat at the table and we're just sitting and just blathering away about various things, that was all the surface conversation. There was a potload, that's a technical term, and that's a joke, of stuff under the table that was also interacting and commingling, and I felt that. Maybe it's my illusion, I'm probably going to stick with it, but I felt it. And I feel that with others as well. That's, Father, that's how you made us to live as you do in this expression that we know of this set of dimensions that we are able to embrace, enjoy, love, blah, blah, blah.
That's why for one that we're recognizing the Father in.
Yes.
I'm taking a picture of this because I never be able to explain all that to Mike once.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, look what you did.
He did it again. He did it last time. He asked that question. Now look what happened.
I told you.
No, I took 8 pages of notes. I appreciate everything you shared.
Amen. That's a cool world you live in, John.
You keep wanting to ask this question. I won't ask it, I'll ask you.
Lynn, did you want to?
In my Father's house are many dimensions.
No,
Just think what's breathing, and I leave. I feel
anything,
space.
whatever.
Because this is really short.
Why aren't we always talking about spaceships? There's many dimensions.
You know, one of
We
the
travel
things
through
I
them.
wanted to
If
talk
we
about,
want
but
to,
you said
I
you
think
should take time out.
we don't need a
to,
spaceship.
think,
It's a
to just
easy
expand,
point
let
of
your
reference to
thoughts
understand.
go. You know, when, because we all have these thoughts in our head. They're all just spinning around. You can't help it, they're there, they're spinning around. But when you get quiet and you listen to the thoughts in your head, and every once in a while, the two thoughts will interconnect, and there'll be a spark, an idea. But every rare occasion, 3 thoughts will collide at the same time, and that's an explosion.
Wow.
Or genius. And so if you just let it happen, you have genius in you. You just need to listen for it.
Tell them how you do that.
Well, people do it all different ways, and I do it a lot like what you do. I just stare off into whatever, into nothing really. And then I focus on more and more nothing to where I might look at a leaf or a tree or something that I find attractive, and not my wife because she's distracting.
Yeah.
But something attractive, and then you just get quiet, and it gets fuzzy, and now you're just in a place where you don't really see anything, and you're just really listening for it. And sometimes it comes, and sometimes it don't. But it's peaceful regardless.
I just have to get still
Yeah.
and let everything be quiet. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I'll catch him outside doing that.
Thank you.
And a lot of times, he has, well, the majority of the time, he's come up with a strategy for his company for exponential growth, because he will just go out on the patio, and he sits out there, and I watch him, and he'll just begin to go into a different place, dimension, whatever you want to call it, where he can access different things for the purposes of creation.
That's awesome.
And
taught us.
no one taught him to do that. He just does it. And
You know, I think the real true purpose of meditation is not a concept that's taught you, it's something that you already know, that you have to allow it and use you. So people ask me, what's the best mode to meditate? I said, there is not one. You have to find what works with you. Because it's already in you. Like and I was, you know, we're on the same page, so we would meditate. I could say something about the way I would meditate. He's going to resonate with it. And you said, oh no, I have to stare at a candle burn. Or someone else said, no, I have to have music going. So there, you know, we have all of these books and ideas that say, here's how you meditate. But how you meditate is already within you. You have to find that.
That's right.
You might have a couple ways of meditating as well.
What?
You might have more than one way of doing it.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
right.
you can use it.
But you know, this whole, one of the things that I think we'll be able to look back at this weekend and understand.
No, I'm sorry, slide the,
We'll be able to look back at this weekend and understand that we navigated into other dimensions. And that we have been given, especially through John, you know, I don't have a mathematical mind at all. I got really bad grades. I'm a very abstract thinker, but not when it comes to math. Yes, I did. I failed algebra.
I didn't.
I didn't.
I mean, I said,
I did.
so I've never been one, but one of the things that John said, and I may need to ask about this after the meeting, but I was obsessed with the term Euclid eclipse in 9th grade. Still don't know what it is, but I know that there's technology in me. The human part of us is limited, but the other part of us that's divine is unlimited. And when we are coming together with these spheres of influence, in that place of the overlap, we reap all the benefits from infinity. And that's what this is all about. It is getting the two spheres of influence to come together to become the God-man, to become divinity expressed in humanity. And what I want to talk about today is the Merkaba, this is an interdimensional vehicle that is, you have this ability and you already are navigating dimensions. You know, we can just go ahead and start that, John. We don't have to back up. And we'll talk after this.
See it.
Can you turn it up?
oh, sorry.
It sounds like a good thing to miss.
Don't look at him. Activating my Merkaba. That's it.
Hello everyone. The Merkaba was thought to be a divine light vehicle which transported people from one dimension to the next. You can think of it as a spiritual spaceship of sorts. The Merkaba is counter-rotating fields of light in the shape of two interlocked tetrahedra, where one point of the tetrahedra points up and the other points down, forming the shape of a star tetrahedron. This is why it is referred to as the Chariot of Ascension. When viewed, it looks like a three-dimensional Star of David. Why? Because the Star of David came about because people were observing the Merkaba. This is why the Star of David, among other things, represents the idea of the soul transcending the temporal world. Even though the Merkaba has been witnessed by mankind since spiritual curiosity arose, the Merkaba made its major debut in human consciousness before Jesus was born, amongst those who practiced early Jewish mysticism. It showed up in their visions. They began calling it Merkaba, which means to ride or a thing to ride in, depending on its usage. They believed the Merkaba to be a spiritual chariot of sorts. Amongst religious scholars at that time, it was hailed as a chariot of the gods. The Merkaba became a secret doctrine, only known to few. A few scholars and philosophers and rabbis preserved the information about the Merkaba, while many others forbid the study of it. Because of this, over the years, we've become somewhat confused. All over the world, there are people that have their own ideas about what the Merkaba is, and not many of them agree. This is why my inbox has been flooded with emails asking me to put my spin on the Merkaba. It has long been thought that the Merkaba sits inside the base of someone's base chakra, and that when someone activates their Merkaba, it expands to encompass their body, and that Merkaba can be activated through spinning techniques or breathwork techniques or focus exercises, which is why you saw Blake spinning in circles earlier on before this video. The average human consciousness does not understand that consciousness can exit and enter this dimension at will, because it understands things in terms of movement, and movement in terms of travel. And when the human brain thinks of movement and travel, it thinks of a vehicle. It can't conceive of movement taking place outside the reality construct of a vehicle. And so the Merkaba has been seen as a vehicle for thousands of years. The Merkaba is a geometric pattern that moves either like a torus or like counter-rotating light fields. The energy field of a person, which is always present, takes on this pattern, which indicates that a person's consciousness is no longer purely focused physically and is now able to travel or is traveling through other dimensional realities. Take this one step further. When the Merkaba is activated to its full potential, it indicates that a person is able to take their body through stargates in other dimensional realities instead of simply taking their consciousness to other dimensional realities whilst leaving their body behind. The fully activated Merkaba indicates that a person is able to transform the entire body into light. It is a form of light travel. In other words, in the final stages of Merkaba activation, through a shift in consciousness, the mind, spirit, and body completely integrate into one pattern of light and is then able to transcend the limitation of the physical time-space reality. Herein lies the problem. Humans think that the Merkaba is a prerequisite for ascension. In reality, it is a physical symptom. In other words, it is a result of ascension. Physical human consciousness has a difficult time understanding ascension. But ascension is really only a shift in perspectives. It's shifting to a perspective which takes in a more objective view of the reality we live in and of the universe itself. There are thousands of techniques to enable a person to shift their perspective. All of these techniques help a person get closer to ascension. It is thought which prohibits someone from exiting the physical dimension. It is thought which enables a person to exit the physical dimension. He who manipulates thought manipulates the matrix of this universe. Thought is an interdimensional vehicle. This is why the most beneficial teachers of ascension are focused on one primary thing, and that is to help you alter your perspective. That is to help you work with thought as if it is the clay that is molding your reality. They help a person to develop an open and a flexible mind. You cannot activate the Merkaba so that the Merkaba itself assists you to reach other dimensions or to ascend. Instead, the Merkaba activates on its own as a result of shifting consciousness. The Merkaba is a symptom of increasing the vibration of consciousness, not a cause of increasing consciousness. The Merkaba becomes alive, and the Merkaba becoming alive means the energy field of a person reflects the fact that they have developed a pattern of consciousness which enables their perspective to be unrestricted by the limits of vibrational density of the physical dimension. The triangle is a pattern we see that emerges as a result of directed consciousness, which is experienced as movement. It is also a pattern that emerges as a result of the desire to merge the physical reality, mind, and spirit. These are the two primary reasons that the Merkaba takes on the interlocking triangular structure that it does. You do not have to go anywhere to travel interdimensionally, because going somewhere implies physical movement. And physical movement only belongs to the physical dimension. Outside of the physical dimension, travel is not necessarily movement or proximity. When it comes to interdimensional travel, the process depends on two primary principles: attention and intention. It's a three-step process. First, you set your intention. Then, you focus your attention on anything that is related to your intention. Then, you merge the two by focusing your intention on whatever desire you've come up with. In summation, the Merkaba is a pattern and structure that the human light body takes on when one is ready for or is engaged in interdimensional travel. It just so happens that this particular pattern, which we call the Merkaba, begins once it's activated near the root chakra. It then continues outwards like a torus shape around the body, and that torus shape then begins to form the shape of a star tetrahedron, the very shape that we call the Merkaba. Have a good week.
No. Deactivate. Deactivate. No, it's not working.
Silliness. Very good. But I just, in showing that to you, one of the things that she relayed that so resonated with me is that you don't have to do anything.
Try.
You just have to be. You shift your consciousness. And the thing that she was really talking about is merging two. This is the masculine, because it's basically a phallus. It's symbolizing the seed giver. This is the womb, because it symbolizes the receptacle. And you bring those two together, the feminine and the masculine, and you've got union. So when she's talking about bringing your intention, that's masculine, that's the divine part of you, that's the seed giver. When you bring the intention and put your attention to it, you have this union. So today, what we've been, this weekend, what we've been talking about is understanding the masculine and feminine principles that's resident within your body. One is divinity and one is your humanity. It's bringing those together as Emmanuel, the expression of God in the earth. It's simple. So, you know, the picture of, you know, bearing the Christ to the cross, to death, all this is all about, is bringing your human will to a place of submission, saying, I get it. I get it. Not my human will. When Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, in the oil press, that place, Garden of Gethsemane, that's what it means, where it crushed the spirit right out of him when he cried and sweat drops of blood. You know, this is us. It's our story when we come to the end of ourselves and our human will, and we say, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to partner. I'm supposed to copulate. I'm supposed to come together with divinity,
Yes.
so that that seed can be placed within me, and I can begin to create in a realm that divinity has not heretofore created in. That's us. You know, we're that virgin soil, never before had been penetrated. Our DNA had not been penetrated prior to this grand experiment, and now divinity is inside your body, waiting for you to have your cross experience, which is all over, like Lynn was talking about. It's in the heavens, it's everywhere. Our story is everywhere. And it's easy once we begin to just shift the way that we think about reality. One of the things that I want to say, and then I want to get into a Q&A, this really helped me understand the purpose for my and most of your upbringing in the church. And that is that there needs to be a woman that brings forth the man-child. It's a pattern. So there needs to be a restrictive structure, and that forces you, that makes you pass through this narrow, dark night of the soul, where you come to the place of ultimate constriction and restriction. You know, in a woman, with giving birth, something that happens is the water in the birth sac breaks. And that's consciousness. So what you've been used to, what you've been growing in, incubating in, the environment gets too small. You cannot, a baby gets uncomfortable in that place and begins to push and stretch and say, I can't do this anymore. And that's what's happened with your consciousness. You say, hell? What? Eternal what? No. We got to that place, and it happened with us over years. But to that place where we said, no, I can't do this anymore. But I can't despise the woman that gave me birth. I understand that there are those people that have signed up to be that womb, to be that birthplace for the Christ. So as much as I get my feathers ruffled here and there about people that are, you know, in that older place of understanding, I still have to bless the woman that gave me birth. Just like in the book of Revelation, it says that she gives birth to the man-child, and the man-child is caught up to God and his throne. But the woman goes into the wilderness, and what does the wilderness represent? But egocentric consciousness. She goes into the wilderness for a time and half a time where she is fed by God. So there's purpose in the systems that have been here in the earth to birth something out of us. It is only human nature. You know, if you go up to somebody, put your hand up, baby. You go up to somebody and you push. I didn't tell him to push.
Drive, but yeah.
It's a human nature to push back. So human nature has been working in our favor for those that have agreed to be the womb. It's a healthy thing to push back and to say, no, I'm not, no. But so in short, and to wrap this up, you know, this part up, is that I think, and although I don't understand everything you said, I understand everything you said.
Yes.
And I know that it's something that is going to go in me and marinate, and dots are going to come and connect because of what you were willing to share. So thank you for that. And it went into every single person here. And the things that John was talking about have been there all along. I don't know if you heard me because you were messing with the machine, but when I was in 9th grade, all I heard was Euclid eclipse.
Yes.
Euclid eclipse, Euclid eclipse, Euclid eclipse. And I know that it's got something to do with this, but it has something to do with us being in this place when the dimensions are coming together. And we're reaping the benefit, just like in cellular mitosis, we're reaping the benefit of both the egg and the sperm.
If you take what I was drawing and start making more and more circles based on the intersection of all of those things,
It's the flower of life.
that's where you get
Yeah.
it. That's lit. It becomes completely dense and filled.
And for those that are interested in the ancient, or the secret of the ancient secret of the flower of life by Drummond Melchizedek, excellent 2 series of book, volume 1 and 2, that will explain creation and how it came out of the void with intention, and what's happening with us here today with that process. So, okay, and I did want to say this. The myth is something that never was, yet always is. And I don't know who said that initially. It was probably someone from the ancients, but I've heard it many times, and it probably is the best description of what a myth is. It never was, yet always is. Okay, let's see if I was going to say anything else. Oh, a lot of catchphrases today. One of them is resonate. It just didn't resonate. Very important. That word started to be circulated maybe a decade ago, and is increasing in its usage because we understand when something resonates. That is your divine guidance speaking and pinging to you, pinging out to the human aspect of you. And because you're the helpmate and you're the servant, and you're gonna have to begin to really understand and to move on what resonates inside of you, because that's your higher guidance, that's your higher self, that's your divine self giving you direction. And so your path is not gonna be the same as Lynn's path. It's not gonna be the same as Lyle or Annie, or, you know, it's not gonna be the same. You have to distinguish that voice inside, and it will guide and lead you to the place where you need to be.
That's right.
That's the seed giver. Remember that it's always there, always there. And there are ways that you can activate, help speed along the process by stimulating your pineal gland. Remember, Jacob struggled with the angel at Peniel. Is that the name of the place? Peniel, which is the pineal. And Jacob, which means supplanter, which means one who seizes the place of another, which means your egocentric, dominating self, my will, my way. He struggles with the messenger, which is what we do. We struggle with the messenger, and ultimately that messenger, divinity, wins, and our name is changed to Israel. We go from supplanter to the one that is divine. And so in our news, when we hear so much controversy about Israel, and especially the church, when they want to take sides with Israel, really the Israel that needs to be given place and we need to stand with is this. The one that struggled but came together and recognizes that they are in a synergistic cooperation with the divine, your higher self, your true nature as a God-man being expressed in the earth. That's what we're to stand on. That's what we're to support. Does that help? I'm done.
Okay,
You guys want to do a Q&A? Or just to say that everything that this, you can look her up, Teal Swan, on the internet. She's got a very calm and a peaceful way about her. I like a lot of what she says. It resonates with me. But I also transcribed, and if you will go back and reread the transcription from that little video, it's excellent. A lot of times for me, I can watch and learn and absorb a lot, but it helps if I can just go back and, oh, that's what she was saying. But again, I really appreciate and resonate with her saying you don't have to do anything. And there's so many people, I mean, I did the spinning thing. Stood and spun and spun and spun. I did that stuff because I'm hungry and I want everything that I can have. But in reality, you already are. You are, and all it is just a shift in perspective, and your thought is what's the most powerful thing. So it's not about works that anyone should boast. It's about becoming and recognizing who you've been all along.
Thank you for taking the time to transcribe that. I know that's a lot of work, but that's a real gift to us.
Well, you're welcome. And and if you just reread in here, I also talk about some of my own journey and ascension, and your journey is going to be your own, but I list some of the things that have happened to me over the years just as a comfort for you. You may not have to experience anything. You may not have had as much to undo. I feel like I've had a lot to undo in my life, and so as the energy, remember, ascension is what will manifest the Merkaba.
Amen.
It's when you clear and when you begin to exit hell and you begin to come up here, then that Merkaba is what divinely activates.
Amen.
So, but in the ascension process, there can be some uncomfortable things. And so I gave you a couple of really excellent resources in this little booklet about the physical symptoms, about emotional symptoms, about psychic symptoms, and what we can do to ground ourselves so that we don't suffer as much. Half the battle is recognizing what you're going through.
Yeah.
You know, because truthfully, if you read the list of symptoms, I should have been in the hospital, I don't know how many times. I mean, I can remember in the year before Chris's accident, I would feel these hard cyst-like bumps come up like fists under my skin in my body. And I would just think, oh, there's another bump. And then 2 weeks later, be over here. There's another bump. Well, it's gone from over here. That's weird. I mean, who wouldn't go to the doctor? But you have to rely upon that intuitive faculty that tells you, go to the doctor. Or breathe, cleanse, drink water, rest, focus, get in nature, take your shoes off, walk in the grass. All these things are so simple, but they're vital to ground your energy and to allow the process of transformation and clearing, energy clearing out your chakras. So experiment on your own. I've given you a really good resource. You can go on the internet and look these people up. You can read here, but you can also listen to your own guidance and it'll tell you what to do. I mean, I can remember laying in bed feeling like the life, breath, blood, whatever was being sucked out of me. Usually happens when he's out of town, thankfully. And my sister was staying with me, and I can remember getting up and out of bed thinking, I've got to go to the emergency room. This is horrible. And yet, as I laid there, I thought, what would I tell a doctor? Do you hurt somewhere, Barbara? No. You don't have any pain anywhere? No. Well, what do you feel? I feel like I'm dying. I mean, I felt such a drain of energy and these waves of electricity going over my body and getting down to the end of my body and my feet and causing my toes to cramp and curl under, and then it releasing and coming, and I would just lay there thinking, well, here it comes up again, and thinking that I was absolutely certifiably crazy. But what I was going through, and still am in the process of going through, is that catchphrase, ascension. When your energy begins to clear, it has sometimes physical ramifications on your body vehicle. So I say that to encourage you, if these things happen to you, you're okay. Listen to your guidance. You'll know just by inquiring from that source what you need to do. And most of the time for me, I have to just lay down and let it pass.
Amen.
Lay down and let it pass.
Just like the Lord said to me when I was in the Spirit, He said, the things you're going through is not a sickness, it's a symptom. So we have to learn to live through those symptoms.
And there's many, and people have talked in here today about some of their symptoms. Who was telling me about, was it the gastrointestinal reason? Were you telling me about that? Someone was telling me about that. You were? And skin rashes. I mean, there's, you know, when he talks about being from another dimension, it just may be, I don't know. But I have perfectly red circles show up on the inside of my arms. Perfectly red. And I go through cycles where I just feel funny. I feel not normal. And I'll have these odd things happen. These marks show up on my body sometimes and then disappear. And so again, just by way of encouraging you, read through the list of symptoms. You may identify with some. You can probably add a few to the list, to the repertoire. And just know that this is all normal, and you'll make it through it. Good stuff. So if anyone else has something to say, or if you want to have a Q&A, and then we can.
One of them, I don't know why, but you know, I'm known as a grace teacher, so they wanted me to talk about the law. So I did this big study of the law. And Mike was reading all these books on the Zodiac, one of them called The Son of God, S-U-N. And it was a Hellenistic Greek professor who studied Zodiac. You know, Hellenistic and Gnostic, all those are dangerous words that people don't like. Well, anyways, he was studying this stuff, and then I got asked to speak on all the theories of the atonement. in one weekend. I mean, that's millions and millions. So he kept sending me these emails, and I thought, well, I got to respond. And in a moment, I had 3 thoughts that collided. And I said, isn't it interesting that there's this whole zodiac, this whole thing that we're looking at, and we take all of this thing that's a cycle and lock it into one thing and call it time and law. And I just sent that email, and I went on about it, and I did, you know. And all of a sudden, he came out to Dallas for computer training, and I went and just did, and I had that email with her. I said, what is this? He said, man, this is so profound. He said, this has opened a whole new way of looking at time. Me, it was just a fleeing thought. I was like, you know, he's going to think I'm ignoring him. But I had 3 thoughts that collided. And then I got to think, I said, I don't even know where that originated, but I think it was because I was listening to so much about this cycle. And yet, I turn on the television, and everybody's talking about this one-dimensional box. And here's all these dimensions, and when you did the 3 that were intertwining together, the interaction, it really helped me to realize that there is so much that we've locked down. The more we get into the heavens declare, the more we realize what we've locked into a box. And every time I think I've got that box handled, then I listen to some more Lynn or more Bob, or I get on Facebook and I say, boy, I have built another box. I don't ever build it all the way like I used to, but I got to tear down a couple of walls.
Well, you let that's what you were saying a moment ago, to me at least, Barbara. You let the box that is what it is, be what it is in its fullness, so that it can then become an inherent and a feature of your foundation. That's the intent. And as that grows from n equal 2 boxes to n equal 3 boxes that they can interact, to n equal 4, to n equal, let the number grow to be whatever the limits are that represent your constraints. The constraints that you have are wonderful because they help others grow into more of their fullness. Just like, you know, you hear from each person. That's the loveliness of us being able to interact with each other, and a special feature of what this is.
It's kind of like a house. My father's house has many rooms. And that's sort of what John is describing, I believe. And we all have ways of decorating our various rooms. They're our rooms, and we've made them our rooms by how we decorate them, but we each came with them differently. But it's sort of that concept, I believe.
Reese, will you say what you were telling me? It makes so much sense.
Well, I will. I prefer you did, but I will. Well, whenever she was talking about the man-child being birthed and the woman being taken into the wilderness. Well, what I was seeing there, that the church is, like you said, the church is the pattern, but it's the exterior. Everything about us is interior. It's all within us. And so that what the church is representing there is the leftover belief system, that structure, that box, that leftover that's within us still. I mean, I know that I have ascended, come into union, my humanity is coming into union with the Christ, my Christ. I know that the Christ is ascended to the throne. I know that. But I also know that I still deal with thoughts and questions and leftover fears. You know, fears is the thing that I was told back in 99. It's vital you get rid of all your fears. You know, that's got, the fear has to go, because we cannot go into where what we want and what we're desiring with any fear. You know, we have to leave it. So these things crop up every now and then, and questions and thoughts. So is that the woman that's being nurtured in the wilderness by the Christ child? That's being nurtured, that's being fed, it's being purified, cleansed, like Esther went through so many days of purification. It's being cleansed and pure until it can, the fullness of who we truly are comes together. So there's nothing left over to be afraid, to prevent us from going on into everything that we desire.
probably that prevents us, we can go easily in spirit, we can go into other dimensions, we can go into visions, we can, in our mind, we can do and see marvelous, wonderful things. But my body hasn't gone there yet. And probably that's what keeps my body from going, is that leftover woman that's got to be nourished and cleansed and brought into the full understanding.
That is so good. And that's what John was saying before you walked in,
Oh.
was that we have, not that, but what he was saying was you have to appreciate the whole
Yeah.
and not judge it, just
Right,
appreciate it.
right. Our boxes have got to be cleansed. Because, you know, we have some pretty powerful boxes. and I don't want them gone. I want them incorporated into the house. I don't think anything goes. It comes together.
And you know, the reason for that is that everything that we experience, every emotion that we experience from fear to joy has an energy about it that's necessary for creation. So when you leave behind judgment of any given circumstance, all that's left is the emotion that was accrued during that time.
That's true.
And that emotion is the energy behind that emotion is necessary for the focusing and for the creation and distribution of material. It creates. So the energy that came when it is said that he was acquainted with our sorrows, the stricken, I mean, that's us.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Christ in us.
Mm-hmm.
And the example again with Lazarus is Jesus used grief to raise his friend from the dead.
That was so powerful.
He used grief. He didn't say, you know, hey,
And
buddy, come on up. He didn't use
another
grief.
thing that I've always, and I want to ask this question because I've always kind of not quite understood this about the two dimensions. One time we're living in a two-dimensional world, the next time it's three-dimensional. So what are we, two-dimensional or three-dimensional?
I feel that we are at least 12.
Oh, you done messed her up.
And the reason that I say that is I have absolutely no basis, none. I'm not a scientist, I don't have education, I haven't read, but I discern that we have 12 because of the 12 disciples that surrounded the Christ and met him in the upper room. And I also know that Simon is the aspect that surrounded the Christ, the disciple of the Christ, that could hear the voice of the Father, and his name was changed to Peter. It's the revelator. It's the part of us which is probably linked with the pineal that has the ability to hear interdimensionally. There's Luke, he's able to heal the body. He's a physician. There's Matthew, the one that can navigate numbers. So, I mean, I think we're all of these different aspects, but it says we are being built into a multi-dimensional habitation, this new Jerusalem that descends out of the heavens to the earth. And it is supposed to be his habitation, its habitation. So we are expressing ourselves in multi-dimensions, but 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, I don't know. I don't know when they all come on board or when we all fire up, I don't understand. I just know that the potential is there and I'm not closing myself off to it.
So that's the 12 rays of deific mind. It's those 12 dimensions. It's the 12 rays of deific mind.
Oh.
Can I, let me just see if I can add something to it, whatever. No, you're all right, you're okay. In Hebrew, this is the mem, which has a value of 40, which equals water. Or we could say 3 dimensions, because it's out of water in a 3-dimensional world that we're created.
Oh, that's my question. Explain how that's three-dimensional.
Okay, because it takes the above and the below and it combines the other than, which gives it a 3rd dimension to bring life into it.
Okay.
So, and John could probably
That's
do a
what I
whole lot
was
more with
wondering.
that than what I would be able
So
to
the
do.
3 dimensions is really consciousness.
Yeah, if you do the 2 dimension, you're just above and below.
Okay. Okay.
So when you add a 3rd dimension, you bring the life. And then when you know, I use this word, most people don't ever know that Adam is spelled 2 ways because they don't look at it from the Hebrew letter system. So they only spell Adam just this one way. Well, this way only spells the earth Adam, or humankind. Aleph, mem. And this way, Adam is spelled, gives him a higher dimension. So this way of spelling Adam, and you have to pay attention if you're looking at Hebrew glyphs. The Hebrew glyphs, to me, the Bible is put in Hebrew glyphs. And when I say that, it's not a language. So I'm not trying to say the Hebrew language. I'm saying the Hebrew glyphs, which are just characters. If you look at aeroglyphs, Egyptian aeroglyphs, they're just holy characters. So they are, as it tells you in Genesis 1:14, they are just symbols that point to something. And that's what a myth is. A myth is a fabulous story that's filled with symbols that's pointing to something that wants to activate in us. It activates energy in us. And so when you get to this mem, this is also considered a mem, but you can see the character difference in the sign.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So this one has a 40 value. This one has a 600 value. And of course you can see, wow, we went in value up. And so in Hebrew, you have 9 characters that are single digits. And then you have 9 characters that are double digit. And then you have 9 characters that are triple digit. And the reason they are is because out of John's 0, nothing, Insof, out of nothing comes these single digits that represents everything. So John's using his letters, I'm just going to expand them with the Hebrew characters 1 through 9. This represents divinity that's poured itself into humanity. Or we could say, for me, what John did is he took finite and he described the infinite. So that there is no question that whatever that is out there, whatever we don't know, it still is, and we can prove it. And that's what John did. He numerically proved that can't be proved. So then when you take the Hebrew glyphs starting with the Yod, which is 10, through the 90, you have taken the divinity and you have brought it into, and this is where the conundrum is at, you brought it into duality. Because now you have a system of 2 numbers. The duality is where we get so confused and bogged down because we think it's separate. So then the church comes along and it says, God's up there, we're down here. It's duality. So we live in this duality. We live in a world that looks dual, but still unified. It's like a Hebrew word right here. Let me just read this to you, because I think it may be the first place where we get into this idea or lack of understanding about this set of glyphs. This set of glyphs 10 through 90. We have one word. Let's see if I can find it here. It said, God saw the light, and God said, let there be light, and there was light, and God saw the light, and it was good, and God divided. That's where we get this idea of division means separation. It does not.
That's good.
See, it does not mean separation. Actually, the word divided right here is badal. And actually, the word badal should have been distinguished.
That's good.
See? And so when you understand that you can have these characters that appear to be 2, but they're really 1, but you can distinguish the value of each one of them. So, and here's where we get this idea that we're separate from God because I'm just human. Well, in this water dimensional world, it has a design, and its design is to be human. And what we want to do is we want to take this design that's to be human, that's designed to cycle itself. It's not designed to take itself into this dimension, which this dimension is in this world. And what happens here, this is duality, And when you come back into Trinity, this is 3 in 1. So you have come from nothing to deposit yourself in something that looks like a distinguishing act to take it right back into the place it came from.
Yes.
So this is how the Hebrew letter system works when you begin to see how it works. And here's what happens with this letter, because this letter, or this way of spelling Adam, is that glib. And so if you will look at the 2 glibs that I have drawn, you have fire. That's what this glib represents. Fire, which is what? Light, which is the 12 dimensions. And what have you done? You've taken that and you've deposited into this. Water always seeks its lowest point. That's why your humanity, if you just live by your humanity, it'll always drag you down. Because it's moved by the moon cycle. That's not wrong. That's where you have to distinguish yourself. You have to recognize yourself. Yes, it will pull you down. It will have those moments, but pay attention to those moments. See, we have just, today is resurrection, right? So we have just entered into this moment of energy. So now what will the moon do? It will wane. And what does it waning process do? It decreases, pulls you down. Just like water. What does water do? It pulls you that place. It's not wrong. That's its design. We continually trying to change the design instead of just taking what he says right here, distinguish the design.
Yes.
Don't divide it.
Yeah.
Distinguish it. And what he said here, he divided the light from the darkness. He distinguished the light, which is the DNA structure that I drew up here, that's what the structure of DNA is, the darkness. The layil. That's the Hebrew word for darkness right here.